Reading hasn't been on my mind this past month. At least not until I created a relaxing atmosphere and had the right mindset for it. I feel like reading has its ups and downs, and forcing it won't really bring it back, at least not properly. And I think it's much better to ease into it. A few days ago, I read on the subway again, something I haven't done in a very, very long time. So I read instead of scrolling endlessly, and it felt much better. I really like reading on the subway because it feels like I'm doing something very productive, even though it's not that big of a deal. Also, am I the only one who is kind of suspiciously checking on my seat neighbors to make sure they're not reading my book? I am so afraid they're gonna read an out-of-place word and think I'm a freak that reads weird stuff. I'm having intercourse now. I'm inside. Well, I am that annoying seat neighbor sometimes, so probably that's why I'm afraid of it. I was reading Donna Tartt's A Secret History, and something interesting finally happened, and it sparked my interest for it again. If you know nothing about the book, here's your 10-second summary. Secret History by Donna Tartt is about this eccentric group of classic students who get entangled in a murderous plot. We have Richard, the narrator, who is kind of the outsider because he's not old money. Then we have Henry, Francis, Camilla, and Charles. And finally, we have Bunny, who ends up murdered by the rest of them. Right now, Richard found out about the accidental murder his friends committed during an ancient Greek ritual, which, might I add, is very weird. And the story starts to revolve around Bunny, who is very angry for not being invited to this ritual because he's an absolute asshole. I wouldn't have invited him either because he's such a clown. And now they are all kind of forced to entertain him and like give him money for his weird and extravagant desires. So he doesn't rat them out, and then he gets killed by them. So that's kind of the vibe until now. When I started this book, I read so much about the dark academia vibe it gives off, but I don't really feel like it is doing that. Maybe that wasn't the point. Maybe the vibe was just like slightly there. At least that's what I'm getting. The vibe is more like college kids getting wasted and in trouble. Trashy but have money, kind of smart but very weird, and also very childish. Is that dark academia vibes? Maybe it is. Until now, my biggest book was Pachinko, which is about 500 pages. So the next logical step was going for a 1500-page monster like the Count of Monte Cristo. I read about 30% of the book, which I don't know how many pages that means because I'm reading on my Kindle. But obviously, I have a lot more to wait until I get to the revenge, which is at the end of the book, as you might expect. If you don't know, the book is about Edmond Dantes, who is betrayed by his friends and seeks revenge and redemption. He starts as a young and ambitious sailor who is wrongfully imprisoned due to mainly jealousy. He's in jail for about 15 years, and when he gets out, he seeks revenge through a very intricate and very well thought plan. Until now, I enjoyed very much the prison escape. That was my favorite part. And I thought everyone was kind of like me, in the sense that my boyfriend finished the book recently, and even though, yes, he prefers the action-packed chapters, the rest of the book didn't bore him, which happened to me. I get very bored when there's not much going on. I mean, I like to know the setting, I like to know what's going on between the characters, but I feel like I always need some action to like keep me going. I think that for the next books I'm going to read, I'm gonna go for something that has a lot more going on. I feel like books that have one big goal, like ultimate revenge, or maybe a lot of character development, that is a good thing, obviously, but when the focal point is like how the character develops without a lot of action, I feel like it kind of bores me a lot. I mean, yeah, like with an ultimate goal, you kind of have a slow burn and at the end it is worth it. but I really want something that will just keep me there and make me want to read continuously. This doesn't happen all the time, obviously, but it kind of like is a recurrent issue with big books. I think I'm going to give Game of Thrones a chance. I watched the series twice now and I absolutely adored it. I think that might feed my impatience since it has more points of view, something is always happening, you don't have an ultimate goal. I mean, you do have somehow, but there are a lot of things going on. Right now in the Count of Monte Cristo, I am getting the vibes of him getting to know what's going on. So he got out of prison, he found the treasure, made himself a billionaire, helped his former employer who was very kind to him, and now he is starting to get to know where are the ones who betrayed him and what's going on with them. So he's making some connections along the way. Right now I'm reading from Albert's point of view and I'm starting to recognize some names of like sons and daughters of the ones who wronged the Count of Monte Cristo. I already know that Albert is Fernand and Mercedes' son from my boyfriend, and he already told me that like everything is going to get more tangled, and yeah, I'm very curious as to how the story is going to unfold. Now that I'm continuing to read The Secret History, it feels like no one is doing anything. The whole strategy to handle their crisis is just do nothing. I mean, if you're rich, kind of works, right? It feels like the depth of any character rests in being inexplicable and mysterious. They are complex characters, yes, but it feels like the most important thing you should pick up is being mysterious. Bonnie acts inexplicable, the love interest, who is not really the love interest, is very, like, mysterious. Also, her twin brother is also very, very inexplicable. The other two guys as well are very intriguing. So everyone is special and interesting. But we have no idea why that is. It feels like everywhere you look, there is an artificial mystery vibe you should pick up on. So Bunny, who is an adult and burns holes in everyone's pockets, it's somehow likable? Is that because he uses old men every time he says something? Also, what is up with all the drinking? Drinking all the time is not that cool. Okay, I was a bit wrong. It's starting to get a bit more interesting. They did actually do something about Bunny, and that was killing him. And it was very interesting to like assist to how they wanted to kill him, and the story about killing him. That I really, really enjoyed that. This book feels like peeping through a keyhole at some really weird guys, if that makes any sense. I mean, they are mysterious as the author probably intended them to be, but the main reason for that is them being just plain bizarre. Maybe I just don't get them. I mean, why are they drinking all the damn time? Can't forget about popping pills like candy. Also, ancient Greek rituals, I mean, okay. Also, it is very cold in Vermont. I think we all understood that very clearly from the 20-page description of the weather. I just thought that the plot is going to be more interesting. The focus is on the characters, but still it feels like they are not that interesting. Especially the narrator. He's just there. I mean, he does absolutely nothing. Doesn't really impact the story all that much, and I just don't like him at all. I don't like Richard at all. Don't like Bonnie either. I'm glad he was murdered. I knew there was something wrong with the twins. I just finished Donna Tartt's book, and I was quite disappointed. I think I wanted a lot more, and also I think I have mixed thoughts on the book. First of all, let me tell you that it is a well-written book, and I liked that, and there's nothing to add really on this topic. About 30% of the book is definitely a page-turner, but since it is a 500-page book, that means that there were a lot of moments that were just plain boring. Well-written, but boring. Another thing I've noticed is that there are a lot of stereotypes in the book, We have the annoying girl who is all over a guy and who parties all the time, who's Judy, I think, if I'm correct. Then we have the one who wants to be in the center of attention and is very annoying, joking all the time, and that's Bunny. We have the girl who has no opinions and is kind of submissive to all the male characters that are around her. And then we have like the ultimate thing in the whole story, which is teenagers getting drunk and popping pills, stealing pills from their grandmothers and so on, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like in this particular book, it makes the characters lack depth. I don't think you need to like the characters to be invested in a book, but I just hated all of them. I just couldn't be sympathetic towards any of the characters in this book. I just felt like they were really bad people, and I don't know, I just didn't enjoy listening to what they had to say. They felt very weird. None seemed truly interesting. Things that were regarded as being likable felt childish and just out of place for me. Overall, I think that this book has potential and probably is a favorite in many readers' bookshelves. The thing is, I am not saying that it was horrible. I'm just saying that it wasn't my cup of tea. Also, there was a part which had me quite worried. And I'm going to read this short paragraph to you, okay? A terrible sweetness boiled up in me. Everything for a moment, mirror, ceiling, floor, was unstable and radiant as a dream. I felt a fierce, nearly irresistible desire to seize Camilla by her bruised wrist, twist her arm behind her back until she cried out, throw her on my bed, strangle her, rope her, I don't know what. Why did you come here? I said. I felt like it was quite out of nowhere, really. I could tell he was angry without all his weird thoughts. Now that I'm finally done with Donna Tartt's book, I can refocus on the Count of Monte Cristo, which, as expected, is much more interesting. Not much to say yet, but I am excited that I got over the thing I consider to be boring. I really liked a lot the chapter in which he is seeing his former fiance, ex-girlfriend or something. I just really liked that part, and it felt so full of emotion without being cringy, which I feel like a lot of books are very cringe whenever we have something that has a lot of emotion. With this book, the author doesn't tell me everything the character is thinking and feeling. Rather, you are doing the thinking and the feeling, which makes you part of the book, and it just makes the whole experience a lot much better. I recently went to a new bookstore, which sells new and secondhand books, and I really enjoyed looking around. But before I'm going to tell you exactly what books I bought, I wanted to talk a bit about my new interests. And those are chemistry, astronomy, and physics. I don't really know when I stopped being interested in these topics, but at some point they just never crossed my mind. And recently I watched some videos and I watched a movie, and those interests just came back. A good source of information is a book. Obviously, a book is always a good source of information. So I started to look into books on these topics, and I found 2 books in that library or bookstore, whatever you want to call it, which I bought and I want to give a try. I have the Elementary Table by Mendeleev periodic table and all the elements explained by James Russell. I don't really know a lot about this book. I didn't really look in it a lot, but I really want to give it a try. We'll see how it goes. And then I have Our Mathematical Universe, which is not a book I personally picked up. My boyfriend did before me even telling him I would like to read books on this topic. Why does mathematics explain the universe so well? From the Big Bang to the distant future via parallel worlds, Max Tegmark proposes a radical idea that our reality is not only described by mathematics, it is mathematics. So, I think it's going to be very interesting to read this book. Obviously very different from what I've been talking about in this video, but These type of books are also within my area of interest. If you're wondering why you're seeing kind of the same pattern here, is because I have the same t-shirt in 2 colors. Also 2 sizes, so I have 4 of them. And they are very, very comfy, and I kind of use them way too much while filming, but it is what it is. Anyway, I'm going to go back to reading now.
Monte Cristo's dialogue with Danglars was fantastic. I really wanted to see the Count of Monte Cristo being reactive towards someone, and especially I really wanted to put Danglars in his place, and I'm not very far in the book right now, so for now I am very satisfied with what I've got. Later on, I am sure there's going to be a lot of putting people in their places. Also, cadres, I think all of them are guilty for what they've done to the protagonist, but Cadres is also stupid. And he got himself a wife like Carconte, which is such a repulsive person. I like the book a lot. I'm nowhere near finishing it. I think, at chapter 50. I'm mostly reading on my Kindle, very little on, the real book. But, yeah. I don't have much to tell you apart from the fact that definitely it is a very, very good book. Next, I started the book with a periodic table explained, which obviously is not a book you read in one sitting because you really need to understand what you're reading, and I want to take element by element and really assimilate the information, which will take a while because I want to learn about an element, then go and read some more. While reading the first, 10 pages of this book, because that's the introduction and the first element, I realized that I have forgotten everything I learned in school, which is kind of embarrassing. But yeah, everything, it's just wiped off. I have a clean slate. The one thing I didn't like about this book is that throughout the whole book, there is not one single picture with the periodic table, which is what's going on? Until publication, didn't anyone think hey, shouldn't we put a picture of the one thing this book is about? Apart from that, I don't really think there's anything to dislike about it, since it is somewhat of a more enjoyable textbook. Maybe, I don't know, that's how I feel about it. Next book, I'm going to read through it while learning other stuff as well. And now with this last one, I didn't read it yet. I didn't have the time. I had to rearrange the house and do a lot of stuff. And I just didn't get the chance to start reading it, but being in a good mood to read. So I did have time, but I didn't have a good mood. So I decided I'm going to read it when I feel like it. But from what I've seen in it, it is interesting, and I am also going to read a bit of the table of contents, the contents of the book, which so you kind of get the idea if I read a bit of what's written here. Space, how big is the distance to the sun and the planet? What is space? Where did the atoms come from? Mysterious microwaves, where did they come from? With the galaxies, cosmology, the universe, more on that, the Big Bang, internal inflation with the cosmic origins, multiverse, reality, mathematical reality, illusion, again multiverse, but some other part. It seems like it's giving you a more holistic approach to the universe, but through math, right? That's the book. Anyway, didn't get the chance to read it. I am going to do that, but I didn't want to rush through it, and I've read quite a bit this past few days, and I managed to get back into reading. And as I said at the beginning, I feel like rushing into reading again is not the best and optimal solution for me, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of people that is. And I much rather prefer to create an atmosphere that will enable a nice reading experience. And yeah, I'm happy I managed to get back into reading, and not much else to say. Thanks for watching, and if you want to check out my other videos, you can do that on my channel because I have videos on a lot of topics. And yeah, that's it.